Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is the Sound Off Live show, and I've got my good friend Steve Goldstein, who's back. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. I felt very guilty when I figured out that it was about 3 years between appearances, and now I think we're about, not even 3 months between appearances here. So thanks.
Pressure is on big time.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, it might have been a little bit more than a month, the question of how many podcasts are out there came up, and we crossed the 2 million podcast number. And I think there were some fireworks, and it's almost as exciting as the odometer rolling over. And then the question started with pod news, and then the tweets. And I guess the question that's out there is, are there really 2 million podcasts?
Well, of course, it depends what the definition of 2 million is. It depends on the definition of what a pandemic looks like, because of the 2 million podcasts, and I did this work with James Cridland of podnews.net, we found that 26% of the 2 million had only produced one episode. So is that a podcast? I mean, I guess it's a podcast. It's not the same as writing a book and doing one book. But so 1/4 of all podcasts were one and done. So that it seemed pretty easy to take that 2 million number down to 1.5 million. But we weren't sure that that was the right number either. And so it became very arbitrary. So we said to ourselves, okay, well, what if you just take 3 or fewer? Okay. And again, what's the right number? No idea. But we chose 3 or fewer. And it ended up being 44% of all podcasts, meaning 44% of the 2 million were 3 or under. So 3 and done, or 1 and 2 and done, 44%. So now you're down to 1.2 million. So we decided just to put our math geek on and go even further. And we went to 10 episodes. We actually went to the other side. We said, how many have done at least 10 episodes? And the answer to that was 36% of the 2 million. So that's 720,000 podcasts out of the 2 million. So kind of freaky how the number goes down pretty fast. And then it goes down even faster. But I'll pause here.
Well, there must be some more. There must have been a couple of events, I think, that sort of really ballooned us to 2 million. And I cited one, and that was the creation of Anchor, which is a free platform where you can put it's not the only free one out there, but it's certainly the most popular. And I think the pandemic. So did those two factors, is that really how we went from about 700,000 to 2 million over the course of about a year and change?
Well, so Anchor, which is part of the Spotify platform, promotes free and easy podcasting. And I think, a lot of people are at home. They're not doing anything, and the tools seem simple enough. And so a lot of people tried it, and it makes sense. About 80% of the one and dones were either on Spreaker, another simple service to use, or Anchor, which again is part of Spotify. So yeah, I think that there were just a ton of people who thought, let's have a little fun and try it.
And you were mentioning the pyramid, and you put it up on your blog at amplifimedia.com. So there's the pyramid that you put together. So when someone, I guess, where on this pyramid is the right answer and the right number?
Well, that's totally subjective. We did, so as I mentioned, we took the 10 podcast threshold. We thought that was interesting, but then we actually took and went a couple of steps further, and we said, okay, of the 10, how many of those were in the past year? So that got us to 36% of all podcasts, and then we said 10 podcasts. I'm sorry, that's 26%. 10 episodes that produced at least one episode in the past year. And then we went further and we said, okay, well, what about the big heavy duty podcasters? The one who have had 10 episodes and have produced a podcast in the past week. And that number took us down to 8% of all podcasts, to 156,000. So that's a pretty shocking number. But in one respect, it's a pretty shocking number. But we've all talked about the 80-20 rule and a million different things that we've done in our marketing lives. And so here it is. There's a core group of podcasters that numbers about 156,000. And the negativity on that did come out, but the positivity was also interesting. So, for example, I had shared this data with my friend Pierre Bouvard over at Westwood One, and he said, this is the best number I've ever seen in podcasting. And the reason he thought that it was the best number is advertisers have been daunted by the 2 million number, but 156,000, even though that's a big number, seems a lot more feasible and manageable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no number is perfect, but 156 sounds like a pretty good number. I mean, it doesn't necessarily count the stuff that's already been produced that people are constantly going back to, like the serials of the world.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, it's more of a reasonable. Here's what's active and being published. And do you think there's a Google problem, by the way, with 2 million? I mean, 8 different podcasts on with the word knitting in them and tough to find. Are we cluttering Google?
Well, okay. So I think your question is, if you're a one and done, should Google or Apple or whomever hang on to that podcast? And I don't have an opinion on that. That was never the goal of this. The goal was really to figure out if, we work with a lot of clients on developing content in different disciplines. And so I think my interest and my focus was on, all right, how much clutter really is there? How much competition really is there? Or is it just a core group in any particular sector? So let's just take the travel sector. How many podcasts would fit that criteria of 10 plus and producing in the past week? And the answer is just a handful. And so that's an easier competitive set to wrap your arms around. Whether Google is getting in the way with us searching for multiple podcasts with the same title, yeah, I'm going to guess that's a factor, but I'm not advocating anything there.
I'm not going to ask you to look into your crystal ball and say what's next.
No, you're not, but you're gonna.
Well, I do want to thank you. And you even asked for the thanks in advance because it was something that your group got together and did, and that's this graphic that we can see here. And I'll put it all up on so you can see it.
The Rorschach chart. Yes.
How did you and your team ever come up with trying to? I mean, you have to go through Pod News for like the last year and a half to come up with how podcasting has evolved and changed. And I guess, and also the B part of this question is from this graphic. Now can you predict the future?
This was a very fun project, and every time we thought we had it right, there was something that we missed. And in fact, there's already been changes since that was published, and that was in concert with the IAB having their upfronts. But it was just a fun exercise. I mean, but predicting the future, yeah, it is what it is. A lot of the smaller companies are being gobbled up by the bigger companies, and probably the next thing we're going to see is a lot of little companies go away, and that sort of replicates what's happened in so many different categories. Everybody throws their stuff out there, and some stuff takes, some stuff doesn't, and there's nothing wrong with that. I gotta say, if you're launching a company and you put the word pod in there now, just go shoot yourself. I mean, you're making it way harder.
I want to revisit something that you mentioned on the podcast episode we did, because it was a great takeaway. And I know that I've got Andrea Askowitz from Writing Class Radio, who's she's watching us here on Facebook, and she's said something very complimentary to me, which you didn't have to do that. Thank you, Andrea, for calling me cute. But her podcast is Writing Class Radio, and it's been around since 2015, 2016. And then you've got other podcasts who are coming in, and I see there's a notable difference between the podcasts that have been going for about 3-4 years and have their audience versus starting a podcast today and then trying to get it off the ground. So it almost feels like there's two worlds out there.
Well, I think the tyranny is findability and discovery. That does go back to your Google question. I think it is very hard to establish anything in media. I mean, on the TV side, U.S. TV, there were 550 new shows released in 2019, so pre-pandemic, and that was a record number. But boy, that feels, not like a lot of content when you compare it to what we're seeing in podcasting. So I think discoverability is going to be the imperative and continues to be a giant issue. So having some kind of megaphone to promote the podcast is going to be pretty essential.
Not sure if you have travel plans coming up, but Podcast Movement is August 3rd. Will you be there or will you be online?
No, I will be there.
Excellent.
That'll be my first conference.
Okay. I want to go too. I've just got to figure out how to get across.
You're in a weird country and, come on, they can't even play baseball in your country now.
Oh, you mean, yeah. Well, even when we can play, we're not even sure that we're doing all that well either. So.
Well, I've been to this Rogers Center several times. Great experience.
Do you have other travel plans for 2021 beyond that?
No, not really, not yet. I do know this just as a personal change post-pandemic. I'll be doing less travel.
Is that just, why is that?
Just because look, I'm platinum on Delta, American, Hilton, Marriott, and that used to be a badge of honor. And post-pandemic, I'm actually thinking, I don't need to be in all of these places. So I'll pick and choose a couple of key things.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm in the same boat. I felt we were kind of over traveled before anyway, with like 7, 8, 9, 10 trips a year, and now we can pick and choose. I guess it's one of the benefits of having stopped and taken a deep breath.
Well, my background is linear radio, and worked, as one of the co-founders of a company called Saga Communications, and I was on the road 40 weeks out of the year. So I have to add that to the 6 years of doing Amplifi, and Amplifi was reduced road work from Saga, but now taking it down, from there just feels like the right thing to do.
Well, outstanding, Steve. Thanks so much. I can't wait to see you in August at Podcast Movement. And
if you can get there,
I will. You know what? I've got plans. I've got a plan A. I've got a land plan, and I've got an airplane plan. So one of those.
You'll be in the back of a truck somewhere under a blanket. Then they'll bring you in from Bellingham, Washington, and you'll make your way over.
I think I might try Emerson, Manitoba, over into Pembina, North Dakota, down 29. I think, and then I keep going through. I think I'm going to overnight in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm not sure if that's a mistake or not.
That's a great down.
Okay,
not a mistake.
Down to Nashville, where we'll get together and see one another. So, and maybe by then there'll be 2.2 million podcasts.
Oh, I think there's way more than that already. I mean, it depends which chart you're looking at.
Steve, thanks a lot. We'll see you in Nashville.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.